His $17 nuclear stock could turn $5,000 into a fortune. What if a stock trading at around $17 today could become one of the most interesting investments of the next decade? Imagine putting $5,000 into a company while it is still relatively small, and then watching that company grow alongside one of the world's most important energy trends. Sounds exciting, right? But there is a much bigger question behind this story. Could a nuclear energy stock really turn a $5,000 investment into a much larger fortune? The answer is possible, but there are no guarantees. Nuclear energy is becoming an increasingly important topic in the global economy. Electricity demand is rising. Artificial intelligence is expanding rapidly. Data centers are consuming more power, and countries around the world are looking for reliable sources of electricity. That combination is putting nuclear energy back into the spotlight. And when an industry begins to attract serious attention, investors naturally start looking for companies that could benefit from that growth. That is where smaller nuclear and nuclear-related stocks become interesting. A stock trading around $17 may look inexpensive at first glance. But there is something every investor needs to understand. A low share price does not automatically mean a stock is cheap. The actual value of a company depends on its market capitalization, the number of shares outstanding, its revenue, earnings, debt, cash flow, assets, future growth potential, and many other factors. So the real question is not simply whether the stock costs $17. The real question is whether the company behind that stock can grow significantly in the years ahead. And nuclear energy has several reasons why investors are paying attention. For decades, nuclear power has provided large amounts of electricity without directly producing carbon emissions during the generation process. It also has an important advantage over some intermittent energy sources. A nuclear plant can operate continuously, providing power around the clock. That becomes especially important when we consider the growth of artificial intelligence. AI systems require powerful computing infrastructure. Those computing systems operate inside massive data centers, and data centers require enormous amounts of electricity. As AI continues to expand, electricity demand could increase significantly. Companies building and operating data centers need reliable power. That could create new opportunities for different parts of the energy industry. And nuclear power is one of the technologies receiving renewed attention because of its ability to provide consistent electricity. But the story does not stop with AI. Electric vehicles, industrial production, cloud computing, telecommunications, digital infrastructure, and a growing global population all require energy. The more digital and electrified the world becomes, the more important reliable electricity could become. This is one reason investors are watching the nuclear sector. But now, let's talk about the $5,000 example. Suppose an investor has $5,000 and the stock is trading at $17 per share. Ignoring trading fees and taxes, $5,000 would purchase approximately 294 shares. Now imagine the stock rises from $17 to $25. Those shares would then be worth approximately $7,350. If the stock eventually reaches $50, the same shares would be worth approximately $14,700. And if the stock somehow reaches $100, those shares would be worth approximately $29,400. That is a significant increase from the original $5,000. But there is another side of the calculation that is just as important. What happens if the stock falls? If the price drops from $17 to $10, those shares would be worth approximately $2,940. That means the investor could lose more than 40% of the original investment. And if the company experiences major financial problems, the potential losses could be even greater. This is why investors should never look only at the potential upside. The downside matters just as much. So what could potentially make a nuclear stock successful? One major factor is demand. If global electricity demand continues to rise, energy companies could have a larger market opportunity. Another factor is government policy. Nuclear energy is heavily influenced by regulation. Building or operating nuclear facilities requires extensive regulatory approval, safety standards, financing, and long-term planning. If governments continue supporting nuclear power, that could create favorable conditions for companies in T-Chaisho,